The first Jurassic became sort of history. This extraordinary puppet technology of Stan Winston's and the CGI of Industrial Light and Magic reached a kind of critical mass. What surprised me, and probably pretty much everyone who worked on the film, was just how swept away one would be by the experience of watching it.
The fascinating thing about why I think these movies have worked so effectively is that they still utilize all the tools of special effects. It's not as though the movies now are only made with computer effects. Stan Winston Studios and the people who work there on behalf of Jurassic Park have brought a tremendous amount to the believability of these characters.
It starts on the drawing, it starts in sketches, color renderings, maquette, sculpture, new ideas are birthed as we develop.
You start thinking of them as being other personalities on the set. I worked with the T-Rex before, of course, so we know each other very well. I know some of these raptors too, although they've had a bit of a facelift. I don't really think of them as puppets at all. I think of them as being sentient beings somehow. And I guess they are. It take at least 12 people to work each of these creatures, and so they are a combination of the intelligence of those people that are working them.
Action! When you're figuring out how it's going to be done, these different methods come about. For example, walking legs with the raptor, which I actually wear and fit inside. Or this should be a total hydraulic puppet.
As with any character that we do, their performance is based on the puppeteers. The performance is the guys who are the puppeteers who are doing it.
The way the Spinosaurus and the raptor were controlled were telemetry devices, which is a machine that you can twist and turn it and makes the head twist and turn or move the body around.
Try not to let it become mechanical. It should be,
You have separate people on arm telemetry devices. On the Spinosaur, they're actually strapped into it so that they move it around, and what they do is translated to the dinosaur.
Our director, Joe Johnston, decided that he wanted to have an airplane crash. And one of the interesting things that you'll see is you will see the principal actors in the airplane. Rather than stay very wide and do something CG or try to do something with doubles, we had to design a tree that really was a gimbal that we could put the airplane into and be able to move it around, tilt it, shake it.
The plane crash and the aftermath of the crash, the destruction of the airplane, was probably the longest sequence to shoot.
We had 3 separate types of planes, at least 2 of each. We had one that would sit in the tree and rock back and forth and complete the crash. We had one that would roll. We had one that would crush from the outside. One that would crush from the inside. So through the combination of editing this all together, it looks like one plane.
I think all action-adventure movies today are enormously difficult because the audience expects a tremendous amount now. And in order to deliver that, you're asking people to really push the bar continually on what it is you're trying to do.
Falls Lake was the toughest part of the whole thing, I think, because it had to be at night in the rain, and it involved not only the dinosaur, but fire and smoke and all that stuff.
They've got the Spinosaur diving into the lake. I mean, come on. I mean, he acts in the water. And I must tell you that some of the most dramatic real-life images I have ever seen are of the Spinosaur in the water. This animal is alive, and he's in the water going after people underwater.
When you work with the animatronics, it's terrifying. On the other side, there's some hysterical footage of us running through fields away from, well, nothing.
In almost every movie, sooner or later, you just have to pretend. We had to run away from imaginary dinosaurs, and we had to see imaginary dinosaurs, and you just make it up.
Joe will say, listen, take a tail, take a tail. And you're like, take a tail, whoa, you know, going like this and pretending to see a tail.
It's been amazing to watch these computer guys, men and women, setting up the shots so that they can put the dinosaurs in later. They put little lights out there, which are reference points, and then they shoot this big silver ball, which has something to do with shadows and things like that. And they explained the whole thing to me, and I nodded my head as if I had understood, but I don't have a clue how they do it.
Basically, everything's new. We've got a bunch of new creatures in the way of the pteranodons, the Spinosaurus, the Ankylosauruses, and we're doing new fun things with them.
In this film, more than any of the other ones, we had a chance to have our computer-generated dinosaurs interact with Stan Winston's animatronic dinosaurs. In the other films, we'd cut from ours to a cutaway of his. In this one, they can actually make physical contact.
We have Stan's T-Rex lunging forward, and when you see the computer-generated Spinosaurus come from behind and actually bite into its neck. And I don't think anybody's going to be able to tell whose is whose, you know, whether it's a CG or an animatronic. I'm sitting here, but what you don't realize is there's 200 people behind me that's working on this movie, and it's an amazing crew.
The process of putting computer-generated dinosaurs on the screen starts with the tactile art of sculpture. That's actually where the design phase of the dinosaur takes place. Once those sculptures and maquettes are done, we get them here at ILM. We scan those sculptures. From the scanned data, we can go into the computer and rebuild them to match the sculptures. Once the geometry or the outer surface is created, we have to introduce all the animation controls into that geometry, into that outer surface, so the animators can get in there and manipulate it and can move it, can animate it.
The technical directors take the animation from the animators and then they start lighting it, trying to replicate the scene that the DP and the director set up in front of you with the plate.
What we did early on in this production was to produce believable skin and muscle. Muscle under the skin, the jiggle of the skin. Well, we wanted it to be a process that was dynamic. In other words, if a leg slammed down, we wanted to see stuff jiggle the way it would and have it happen from dynamic forces that they can generate within a computer.
And then the compositors who have to take all those elements and make them look like those computer-generated images belong in the real live-action plate. So it's a huge process, but it, you know, requires amazing talents.
Ready and action!
We entered a new era with Jurassic Park III in that we can focus more on the artistry of effects and animation. The tools are known now. Now all the focus and energy goes more into the craft of making these images. And I believe with Jurassic Park III, you're going to see performance beyond what you've seen in the other movies.
You put this kind of effects team together, the team from ILM and the team from Stan Winston Studio, and you have sort of an unbeatable mix that there's no reason why this shouldn't look and feel beyond anything we've seen in the previous movies.
This is definitely a step beyond what they did in Lost World. And Lost World was a big step from Jurassic Park. It seems like there's nothing now that you can't create on screen.